Rakdos has returned to the most tainted of grails. On a difficulty 18 Wyrdhunter, our very first requested class run. Andrew says that he's having a little bit of difficulty with the Wyrdhunter, and he wants to kind of see how I would approach it. Immediately jumped on this, Andrew. See how easy it is? That's all it takes. One comment. You just ask for it, and I will do my very best. So we're taking a shot at this class. I haven't played the Wyrdhunter since the demo, the tutorial. So I was very excited to see how much more shenanigans we could uncover since I was an absolute novice. We're going to try to approach the same way we have been. Now, normally I would take this fight in no light, but this monster hits many times, and this class can't really block and deal damage at the same time. So, and you see here, I'm already facing down 30 damage on turn 1, and it would require me to use 2 blocks in my hand to even reduce the damage slightly. So we're going to start with high candlelight here. This is something that you will have to adapt into in the higher difficulties, I believe. We get a little bit of damage in and get permanent armor reduction. Those overhead strikes are pretty good early. Their usefulness falls off a little bit later as the Wyrdhunter, I've found. But in the beginning, 10 armor reduction for the rest of the fight. It's hard to argue. Especially when the enemies are starting with 50 armor. We are trying to calculate our vulnerable stacks. We want to get him to about 3 vulnerable stacks and then defend as best as we can. And then on the next turn, push him over that threshold, make him vulnerable, and then deal a whole bunch of damage on top of it. A lot of Wyrdhunters I've seen don't really manage their vulnerable stacks as intensely as I think you should as this class. As you see, I got him stacked up to 3 here. Now, if I can hit him with a small strike, that's going to trigger the vulnerable. Everything I play after that is going to do even more damage. And I'm smarter than even playing the small strike would be the overhead strike. Now that he's vulnerable, all of the hits of the small strike will deal increased damage. I don't think I can kill him. I come very close. I think I can get the double vulnerable on him here, which is very, very good. We're going to duplicate the... Oh, actually, no. We get the kill with the ultimate there. Smart, quick math by me. It's been a little bit since I've played this run. So, again, we're going to be kind of rediscovering it and re-critiquing it together. We look at double edge here. We know we're going to be taking some hits, but I just don't think that's going to be how our damage plays out. We get the option to take Weird Freak. I think Weird Freak is the best in this class. This class wants as many multi-hit attacks as possible. And although Weird Freak is kind of hard to manage early in a profile, when you don't have as much access to weird candles, at the point I'm at, every boss will provide me 4 weird candles, and I already start with quite a bit. So we get some great options here for our passives. We have to take Armor Crusher. Because the enemies are starting with 50 armor plus, we just need Armor Crusher, especially because our plan is to use as many multi-hits as possible. The other option there was the passive that allowed us to duplicate our 6th attack. That's a very, very, very good passive, especially when you are duplicating 2 or 3 energy attacks. Very good. We're going to run across the way. It's kind of unfortunate we burn Candlelight all the way back, and I think we should not have popped the candle before we walk into the fight. We kind of get a little bit better at our candle management as we progress through here. We're looking to see here, wait, why does Weird Freak only attack this many times? And we see that because the fight started with such high candlelight, and it created a tainted force, some people might not be aware how much candlelight a tainted force takes to generate. The weaker tainted forces don't take nearly as much, so it's kind of hard to notice if you've been running low candlelight runs. But if you're a full candlelight, a tainted force that gets generated takes pretty much a full bar of candlelight away from you. And we had to deal with that there, realizing that we just lost a bunch of damage. We're still going to have plenty of damage here. We're trying to get the fresh meat off. There we go. The fresh meat we ended up picking up in the town. I thought the best thing to do at the beginning for this class was just to pick up a card, because they really just need damage. They just need those good damage cards, and I was lucky enough to pick up the fresh meat. So having that in our deck from the beginning, hopefully we can get a huge life total by the end. Weird Freak in the opening turn. That should have 3 attacks on it. The filled bars it's referring to are the dark dividers that you see represented hanging out inside of the weird candle light indicator. I have come to call these little dividers tallow marks, because when your weird candle diminishes and goes past them, you gain a tallow. And you can rack up a lot of tallow by kind of running around in circles and burning all of your weird candles at the end of each run. If you're not doing that in the beginning of your profiles, I highly recommend it. I am unsure as to whether or not you are refunded the tallow that's equivalent to all of your unspent weird candles at the end of each run. So to be safe, when it mattered at the beginning of this profile, I would end with like 6 weird candles and I would just run around in circles. You do have to be in a dangerous area for the weird candle to diminish, though. You cannot be in the town next to the men here. So we're facing quite a bit of damage. Not really able to block effectively as this class, as mentioned. You really do struggle early, especially in the higher difficulties with this class. That's why I wanted to go for a card right off the bat, because if I got something very, very powerful that dealt a lot of multi-attacks, it could be enough power to kind of get me through the early game, was my thinking. Unfortunately, I ended up getting a card that is more late game scaling oriented than early game power, but it did end up working out. Take a huge chunk of damage there right to the face. You might notice that we have 4 healing potions to start with. We did fail the run prior to this, trying to make a video, trying something a little strange. And I had never taken a blessing before, and I was offered the blessing of 2 extra healing potions. Knowing that I'm so far in my meta progression that my healing potions heal me for 50, I was like, oh my gosh, that's an extra 100 HP. I am not going to turn that down. It's going to be pretty hard to lose the next run with 4 50 HP healing potions. And that was the perfect kind of cushion that I thought could get me through the early game of the Wyrdhunter, knowing that their late game would be super powerful and that they would have access to the ability to blow up all the enemies or to adequately defend themselves. So in a way, this class kind of scales with the difficulty. Thinking about what to play here. Unfortunately, we're just under that 3rd little waypoint, I think. Oh no, it did do 3 attacks. Never mind. We did get the 3 attacks there. Just enough maybe to burst him down with our ultimate. Oh, so close. But at least we get the kill with the fresh meat and gain 2 more max HP. Throw out 1 block there just to soak up some of that damage. Already thinking about using a potion. Getting the stun here could be pretty good, but a block is better than a stun since they're only attacking once. That one block saves us 30 damage or so here. We're going to just fully defend. See, it's very hard for this class to deal offense and defend itself at the same time. So you want to shore up your offense as soon as possible. You're really not looking to stall out ever as this class. You just want to accelerate how quickly you can deal damage and do as much damage for as little energy as possible. Get down pretty low here. Still not in danger of dying. We're trying to set up our vulnerable. It's not looking great. We might have to double block and just get a little bit of damage in here. Does look like what we do. Another side note, if you do not continuously apply vulnerable stacks to a target, they will fall off. All of them. So even if an enemy has ×4 vulnerability, if you do not apply any vulnerable to them in one full round, then their vulnerable stacks will all fall off. So the enemy on the right, for example, has 2. If I do not increase his to at least 3, it doesn't go down to 1 like you would initially think. It disappears entirely. So we actually hit him here, or we consider hitting him here. And we're going to use the potion to tank this hit. But see, he has no more stacks on him because we were not able to apply a stack last turn. So just remember that. You can't just get them to 3 and then keep blocking and wait for a good hand to push them over the vulnerable threshold. You have to be more proactive than that. Managed to get out of that one without taking too much damage. We're offered Mark of Blood here. For the early game, I do like Mark of Blood. I think that its usefulness falls off a little bit later, but I think in the early game it's very good. Repeated hits could be better than it looks, but I think early game, when you don't have the energy management, I think that a 0 cost -100 armor card is very, very good. We're not going to switch up our flutes because we very much like the block flute. If you're having difficulty, I would recommend switching your flute to the block flute. Just in general, it's very good. Very, very, very good. We're looking at the enemies here, and we don't want to walk into that fight with the candle enemy that gets stronger when your candlelight is high, but we have to. So we're going to walk straight in. Get a powerful Tainted Force, have our Candlelight drained. It's going to boost up our damage here. And we're really going to get to see the power of the Mark of Death. I love this card. I love the design of this card. Sorry, Mark of Blood. My apologies. This card is super cool because you can use it in 2 ways. You can use it on an enemy that you know you're going to kill that turn. And it's a huge armor reduction for nothing. It's a great setup card. Its alternate use is to use it on an enemy that you know you're not going to touch at all. You use it on them because the armor reduction is for the rest of combat. As long as you don't do damage to them, then the secondary effect of them healing back to full HP really doesn't matter. And if your deck is pretty thin, you can cycle through it a couple times, and within 2 or 3 cycles, they're most likely at maximum armor reduction. It's pretty powerful. We are just stacking our vulnerable up here. The enemies aren't doing any incoming damage, so we're just kind of prepping. We're thinking about using Broad Reach. Similar to the Pathfinder, the ability of the Wyrdhunter is pretty good to use before you ultimate or before you end your turn. you can set up the broad reach and kind of stack it so that you carry it over between turns. We actually don't get a vulnerable stack there because the enemy has barrier. This fight actually kind of messes us up a little bit because of that. Our whole plan was to put vulnerable on him there, but because the barrier stopped the hit, we were not able to. On top of that, because we didn't get to apply any vulnerable to him this turn, those 3 stacks, as you see there, fall straight off. So all of our progress towards making him weak and frail just went away. And he's just going to keep summoning these little totems. They're going to make our life hard. Thankfully, the enemies are not multi-attacking. But you see here, we made him vulnerable and then can't really follow up on it. It might have been smarter to leave him at 3 and maybe play broad reach and end our turn. And at the start of the next turn, make him vulnerable and deal all the damage we need to deal, because here we would just be doing our ultimate for damage. And I think we end up doing that just because this is our chance to do some damage. Yep, we burn it. Kind of ironic that he summons a healing totem and healing cannot happen on the battlefield. Or some, healing is disabled. But it still shows the enemy on the left healing, which is kind of interesting. His healing theoretically should show 0 as well. Maybe it knows he's going to die this turn. The game just already knows. Yeah, you can really see how good that Weird Freak card is, dealing so much single target damage and every single hit applying that vulnerable. We get back into our Mark for Blood again. I can't say the name of this card correctly. It's Mark of Blood. Mark for Blood. Mark for Lust. Mark for Death. This is kind of a tricky turn. We really want to get rid of that barrier, and the shamanistic guy is the only one we need to kill. The totems will die if we kill the guy in the middle. Massive armor reduction. Reduce the armor even further. We know he's healing to full if we don't kill him. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to just kind of chill here, maybe set up a broad reach. We know if this damage doesn't kill, he's just going to heal it back, but that's not too much wasted damage. I think setting up broad reach is probably the best thing to do here. Let's see what we end up doing. Maybe we could small strikes just to stack up our ultimate. That is a play. Broad reach. Ooh, spicy. And he heals back to full. We burn our resources trying so hard to get him down. Nope. Just got a little too greedy, a little too impatient. We easily could have gotten that kill if we would have just been a little bit more patient. Thankfully, he doesn't have barrier, and his armor is still reduced. So our damage is very effective here. And it's just a matter of time before we draw back into Weird Freak and get the kill. Ignore my strange pouches. Don't look at them. And we get super lucky, grabbing a mythical rune in the first couple fights. I have never used the Ing rune before, and kind of looked at this rune questioning what even is the purpose of this rune. And as soon as I read it here, I'm like, yes, this is the purpose of this rune. When you have an early game class that just can't defend itself and you need as many potion drops as possible. So let's throw it on the weapon slot and hope that it triggers and gets us an extra potion. Now, the rune is very interesting. It says every enemy has a 10% chance to drop a healing mixture. So that would imply that in multi-enemy fights, you could get 2, 3, if you got lucky. Maybe in fights with the worms that split, you could get tons and tons of healing potions, quite possibly. And I think it would say 10% chance per fight if it was per fight. Another interesting thing to note here is double vulnerable. You see the vulnerable meter and the indicator, I mean, not meter, and it says ×2 up in the top left. And you notice that it did not degrade. If you can get an enemy to vulnerable ×2, so 8 total hits base, then they take 200% increased damage instead of 100, and the vulnerability will last until the next turn, as opposed to the traditional vulnerability that expires at the end of the turn that it was generated. So this is how you can keep a high health enemy vulnerable for many turns in a row. We get a couple interesting cards presented to us here. Disruption might be good, and we're really trying to take new things, but we know raw power will be great for us. Any damage percentage increase we get will be very good. Whenever you hit an enemy, increase your armor by 10. That is the absolute best passive here. I would never take the mountain, and initial impact is pretty good, but just having the ability to boost up your armor so easily by taking this talent, it pretty much guarantees that you're going to be at 75 armor every single turn. You have so many attacks that multi-hit, and every single hit will generate you armor. So as long as the enemy doesn't have barrier, you will be maxed out, reducing the enemy's damage by a ton. So this is going to keep us safe. This is one of the defensive tools that I was talking about earlier that this class and this faction has at its disposal. We draw our raw power for the first time here. And because this class does not ramp its damage percentage in any way, any cards you can get or passives that you can get that give you increased damage percentage will be very, very good, especially considering that your ultimate deals so much damage. Any increase in that just makes that number so ridiculous you can one-shot pretty much anything with it. Just looking at fresh meat, not really able to make it happen here. And we decreased the armor of the wrong target, surely. We thought that somehow we could kill that target on the left, but he's going to be protected, so we made a huge mistake right in the very beginning of this fight. We realized this, we're like, well, looks like we used the flute. By the way, the flute's overpowered. Super, super good. Now that we're fully defended, we can ignore the mistake that we made. It would be nice if this target had reduced armor this turn, but we're just going to go to town, hit them as many times as we can, and try to get a double vulnerable. I think we will be able to if we hit them with the attack. Oh no, we don't go for the double vulnerable. We should not use that. Yeah, I was going to say, if we didn't go for the double vulnerable, we definitely shouldn't do that. So now we have a lot of little enemies to deal with. We'll mark a blood here, making sure that we get this kill. Should probably raw power ourselves every time. There might be a couple niche cases where raw powering the enemy is better. This might be one of them. Yeah, and then we use Weird Freak to get the kill. Weird Freak probably would have got the kill even without that. No. It did not. But we boost up our armor and we get a block at the end there. Maintaining our HP pool. Trying to keep it from going any lower. And now all of the little grubs are angry at me. So we're going to have to try to do a lot of damage here. We've already used our block flute this fight, unfortunately. We're trying to hope that the small strikes land on the same target. They did not, and the damage just does not look like it's going to be enough here. We still have a little bit more armor left to gain, which we will gain by doing these attacks. So it's going to make us take a little bit less damage there. Still no chance this kills. So we're just going to pass. Take it all to the face. This will make us use a healing potion. We're like, okay. We don't want to go too low now. Now, fresh meat counts these little grubs as actual monsters. Any cards that get stacks or trigger off of killing non-minions will trigger off of these grubs. They're not considered summoned or minions or anything like that. So that's what makes me believe that they have a chance to drop healing mixtures if I have the mythical runestone ing equipped in my weapon slot like I do. He's now vulnerable, I think. Yeah, he's vulnerable. We can definitely get that kill. We're seeing if it's enough damage to just kill another one of them. Not enough to kill, but it was enough to get the vulnerable there. Already used the block flute, yep. Take a little bit more. We're handling this fine. Because we had a potion, but we're handling this fine. Trying to overhead swing first. Should have used the Tainted Force first, realizing that, but should still be able to get this kill with a regular attack. I don't think I should risk small strikes. Yeah, I don't know why I did that. Maybe because my ultimate will kill either way. Yeah. This has to kill. I would be very unlucky if that did not kill. Still taking damage though. Ouch. Yeah, like I said, a couple days have passed since I fought these fights, so it's interesting to see the plays I make. Watch, see my life go up. Those count. If I wanted to min-max, I would just sit here and wait till I kept drawing fresh meat and continuously farm HP off these little guys. Probably should have done that, at least to that one final one. The cursed healer. Still the legacy continues of me never buying something from you. Here, of all times, I would have done it. If I was ever going to buy something from you, it was going to be right now. Just grabbing another healing potion just to be safe. I did not gain a healing potion from that fight, I don't think. So we got a lot of kills. I mean, 10% chance per kill. It's still pretty likely that we could, clear them out and not get a healing potion, but... Tainted Force here is going to reduce damage, not of the most useful Tainted Forces. We pop a candle after the Tainted Force is generated to maximize our candle light. Not much damage coming in. We can use raw power and use the flute. I don't think we had to use the flute there, surely. It looked like we were taking a lot of damage, but we're about to do attacks, which will increase our armor. So yeah, now that our armor has been increased, really, we would have taken, you know, maximum 9, probably about 5. So now that the Plague Rhino has double vulnerable, even if I pass turn and he doesn't die, he will stay vulnerable times 2. It won't even reduce to vulnerable times 1. It comes back over. Actually, that's not true. It did reduce to vulnerable times 1. He's taking 100% increased damage now, but it did remain. It persisted. So now, see, he's still glowing in red and still has the increased damage taken. So if you can tactically plan for it, you can prolong high life enemies' vulnerable state. Very, very useful. Just remember to keep applying vulnerable and keep hitting them every turn, because it doesn't matter how many times you have it stacked up. If at any point you don't hit them in one turn, it will fall off. They will lose all of their stacks. Still super tanky with negative armor and vulnerable. Small strikes in here would keep the vulnerable chain going, which is what I should do. There we go. Get the kill. Gonna use the barrier item maybe? No, we'll just take the damage. Whatever. The summon is a huge problem. 44 HP with 75 armor. Actually quite obnoxious. Dealing 44 damage to an enemy that has 75 armor, as you can see here. Attack does 1 to 2. Not very easy. We have to reduce the armor there. Now it's a lot more feasible. Still pretty tough. And that's definitely an enemy we want to kill. We have to use our powerful attack to knock it out, but we gained a bunch of armor from that. Defending ourselves at the same time. Yeah, I have not unlocked all of the passives for this class, and I think that the most recent update, update 1.01a, changed a lot inside of the game. I think that it changed certain quests. I've noticed that certain quests have been reset in weird ways. It's making me unlock certain things again or in a different manner. Maybe the design team changed how they wanted unlocks to certain things to work, and when they implemented this change with the last patch, it kind of forgot that you unlocked it the old way, you know, so you kind of had to redo that. And it seems some of my past content on the Necromancer and the Apostate has become out of date. Both of them received changes that I have been told kind of put an end to the shenanigans that I was performing with both classes. But I fully intend to check both out again and do an updated version of my videos on them. I really enjoy the Necromancer, and I don't really like the Apostate so much, but I can appreciate, you know, the power of the infinite. So we're going to see exactly how much weaker they were made. Here we just mark of blood the enemy we don't intend to attack and go all out on the other enemy. There we go. Or we could just kill him because he's doing a ton of damage to us. And we get the fresh meat, extra life. There we go. Alright. Seems like past me has a better handle on the situation. Already having a block lined up. And with one enemy left, not much of a challenge. We should be able to just whittle them down. They have a lot of armor though. Realizing that now. but because they're not multi-attacking, we still have a couple blocks in our deck. Keeping these blocks in your deck are good early, but you will want to remove them later, as well as the strike card. Those are high priority targets for your removals as you move through. Keep them early, they're going to serve you well, but later on when you get your damage online, ditch them. We want to do one more hit here just to do the double vulnerable. We're really missing out on the double vulnerable. See, now we have to do one more hit to even trigger it. There we go. And they are dead. I guess it didn't matter either way. Get our level up. We're offered breath control, reposition, and what's that card? Short pause. None of these really fit. Reposition could be good because it's 0 and it kind of helps us push through our deck to get to the cards we really need. Breath control is interesting. Theoretically, breath control lets us play way more cards in a single turn, but I am not confident that I can just spend all of my energy hoping breath control lands on the right targets. So we're going to skip here. We already have quite a bit of maneuvers as well. We don't want to flood this deck with too many maneuvers. We want it to be very attack heavy. Pretty cheap reroll. We walk into Finishing Blow versus, I think, Blade Flurry. Finishing Blow is very appealing. It already hits pretty hard. And if you get extra kills with it, it deals even more damage in the same fight. So it ends up being a very good card in thin decks. And although the other card has Chain, I'm not confident that I can really make the Chain happen without 0 mana cost attacks. Or sorry, 0 energy attacks. So we're just going to move on. And now we realize that we have an... Oh, we don't realize yet. At some point we realize that we have an empty... Aha, there we saw it. We're like, wait, we have an armor slot that we just haven't been using. Because in our last video, in the last fight, we unlocked it. You want to grab Quintessence here. I highly recommend Quintessence over the other two. Never get Fighting Spirit, just in general. But Quintessence is super good. If you can watch the buffs and see when it's going to trigger, you can get a lot of value out of it for this class. Even with the enemies damage reduced by our armor, they're still hitting pretty hard here. So we pick our targets, we think about who's going to do the most damage and who we need to kill first, start stacking up our vulnerables. We'll throw out a Hail Mary small strikes, kind of see where it falls. And Fresh Meat does 120% base damage instead of 100% like attack. So it's always better to play. Don't think that it gets removed from your deck or anything crazy like that after you use it. It's just a more powerful attack. So play it regardless if it gets the killing blow or not. Managed to get the killing blow with the finishing blow card, so it's going to be stronger next time we draw it. And that should be the fight. Should be able to handle it from here. We did redraw the finishing blow, and we get an armor reduction Tainted Force. If we raw power on ourselves, we should be hitting very hard. Are we confident we can get the kill? Maybe not with one. Because we used stun, we probably should not have used stun there. I think that was a mistake. Because we had a lot of damage with Weird Freak plus finishing blow. Yeah, we definitely made a mistake there. We're realizing that now. This is why we watch our replays. Because we learn stuff. Block flute? Block flute, please. I end up using the barrier item. I mean, why not? I'm not knocking it. Definitely use the items. Don't just hoard them. But definitely be aware of when you could have squeezed out a little bit of a more efficient turn. Now this jiggly guy is trying to kill me. Small strike's very good when there's only one enemy left on the battlefield. We boost up our damage for next turn. Let's see if we can get the fresh meat kill. Oh, we do our ultimate to trigger vulnerable. Nice, got it. A rare rune, cracked Ken. 15th card played in one combat gets duplicated, not bad. Not as good as the Ing if we can get some healing potions from it, but haven't gotten one yet that I've noticed. This guy, the scam artist, invest a ridiculous amount of money into me, and then I don't do anything extra special except just continue to have you spend money with me, at me. Yes, you get good things at a discount, but I scammed you at the end of the day. And every run you're going to see me and you're going to remember. We think about if we can even handle the wisp. The wisps are pretty nasty early when you don't have your damage locked in. They can end up negating every single attack. But because we have Mark of Blood, we can definitely kill the wisp. We can just keep using Mark of Blood and reduce their armor all the way down to minus 500 if we have to. Thankfully, we got the Tainted Force for the double stun. That's going to give us a lot of free time to just build up. Now we're going to have to decide if we Mark of Blood the Wisp or the Abomination. We definitely go for the Wisp because that's the threat here. The Wisp may just be unkillable and murder us, so... Really nice getting 3 stacks of vulnerable on the guy on the left, giving us a real good chance to kill him this turn. We did manage to get the vulnerability trigger. He still has a lot of life. He's a long way from dying from fresh meat. Maybe attack ultimate fresh meat will get the kill. Nice. I calculated my quintessence. I actually did not gain life from that. I did not gain max life from that. So that lets me know that the duplicate hit does not count as the card and does not contain the same effects as the card. So because the first instance of fresh meat did not kill, I did not gain any bonus life. Sad face, but at least we know, right? Knowing is half the battle or something. Yeah. Continue to reduce the armor. Negated. It's all we can do. Chances are he'll negate a lot of those, and he did. But we still got 1 or 2 hits in. Probably should have reduced the armor before we weird freaked. Those free blocks saving us even more HP. We're super confident that we can kill the Wisp in this turn, so we mark for blood. And then we realize we don't have the attacks needed to kill the Wisp. Oh, good, it's enough. Whew. That would have been so funny. Now that the Wisp is down, this is going to be an easy fight. We got this one. Set up a powerful hit for next turn. Get them right on the edge of the vulnerability. Get them to 3 of 4. Lead with the armor reduction. and still have to hit the button anyway. Oh, we're going to try to fresh meat. That's what we're doing. We're saving for the fresh meat. We drew it, but he healed back to full because we used... beautiful. But we get our fresh meat either way. See, you look at the Mark of Blood card and you think, ah, man, them healing back to full, that's really going to be difficult to deal with. After their armor's been reduced by 100, you will easily be able to do the damage you've already dealt. I needed to do the second one here for science to see if this encounter had been fixed, because previously this was broken, and both options offered common runestones. So I check my runestones, see if there's anything that I need in particular. Okay, yeah, Ken. I could do double Ken if it actually is rare. Let's see. Bam. It got changed. It got fixed. So I followed through with my plan and grabbed double Ken, I think. Or no. I think what I do is I read them and see what ones I need right now and what ones would serve me well, because I can always transmute later. And I don't think I needed a triple Ken in that moment. So I read through, double check to see which ones might be good for me, and I stumble across the one in particular that gives me lifesteal on the first attack. I know that one is very, very important and a part of this run somewhere. It might come in here. I also think I grab the that one right there, the lore rune. And I also think I grab the rune that gives us a damage boost on the first hit every turn. I think those two are really good combo with each other, having the first hit heal you and be boosted by 100% increased damage. And if that rune right there, the rune. So lore and are my pickups here, I think. There we go. Yeah, and then it resets the order of the list. And I had not been looking at their names previously, just their effects. So I lose the one, and I'm looking at it in the list where it was, and just all of them are different. So I'm fully confused. I start to look up, realize it got lost on me. Still don't know where it's at. Bam. Found it. Funny trick, little boy. Funny trick you play on me. And we ditched the healing potions. We're like, you haven't given us a healing potion yet. It was a fun idea. I thought I figured out the purpose of this rune and why it was good. Nope. Turns out just nope. Gonna have to switch it out. We're gonna switch out for the lifesteal on the first hit. That's going to help us in the manner that we wanted the healing potions to help us. We're going to just heal a little bit every fight. And hopefully that plus us being at max armor at all times is enough to just shore up our defenses and let us just go full offense. Another angry candle man. We really don't have much of a choice because we've been burning our candles vigorously and religiously to get our weird freak to hit harder, and we realize that we've kind of been overdoing it. We needed to in a lot of fights to get to this point, but our reserves of candles are getting pretty low. We can't just keep doing this, and we do want max candlelight for the boss if we can possibly help it. Instantly using the block flute. So many attacks coming at us here. We're not even going to have our brain worry about whether or not we're using that. Take a chunk out of their armor and start to do our damage here. We did pop our candle because Weird Freak just needs to hit 5 times. Just needs to do a ton of damage. We also made Candleman very angry by popping that candle. We're going to reduce his damage down. one of the only uses of smoke bomb I have done in any of my runs. Don't use that item very often. Huge armor boost from Weird Freak. Huge damage. Now we're pretty safe. We're not going to take too much. We've got the blocks. The Abomination tears up its ally because its ally was vulnerable. Yeah, see, we took maybe 15 damage there. Not bad at all. Every time I see myself use raw power on the enemy, I'm always like, was that really the right call? Especially when I do it so fast like that. Because I'm pretty confident it's very good on me more often than not. But I guess when the enemies are attacking a lot, and I'm not sure I can get to maximum armor, that might be a situation where I would use it on an enemy, especially an enemy that's not attacking, like I did. And with the rune swap, I do get a free cast of the 5th card every turn that I play. That's going to essentially give me an extra energy each turn as long as I can make sure I can play 4 cards before it. Having a lot of 0 cost cards helps with this a ton. Enemies are very mad at me, still hurting me. But Weird Freak coming through. We really want to end the fight because the longer the fight goes, the more chances that we generate another weird candle. Or sorry, not another weird candle, another weird card, a Tainted Force. And that will deplete our weird candle light by a huge amount since it will be a very strong card. So we're trying to end the fight now. I think, see, yeah, we couldn't end the fight fast enough and we lost an entire bar to creating that Tainted Force against one enemy. That's a really good example of something to try to be aware of. If you're playing high candlelight, try to end the fights before you generate the second Tainted Force in the same fight. Now we're just trying to efficiently kill this guy and get the fresh meat. Nice. Well, at least we get 2 more max HP, right? The Elderly Archer is an awesome NPC. Most of the time I use him to remove cards. Looks like we choose an attack and a block. We don't want to remove 2 blocks just yet. We do still need some blocks. And eventually, attacks are going to be bad. We want small strikes. Small strikes, for the Wyrdhunter in particular, are way better than the just bland old attack card. We're going to lose a lot more candlelight to the Tainted Force we create in this fight. So we want to end this one as fast as possible because we are out of candles. This fight here shouldn't be too hard for us. Choosing to target these malformed humans first to keep them from spawning into a bunch of other more annoying threats. Choosing to Weird Freak the other enemy because we don't think we can kill the one on the left, even if we devoted all of our damage into it. And it's set to fully heal at the end of the turn. So we're going to split up our damage. We will commit some further armor reduction on the one on the left because we really want to make sure we kill it. And thanks to our rune, we get to have our 5th card in the turn be reduced by 1 energy. Now they're all set to hit absolutely everybody. But on this turn, especially with raw power, and having not used our flute yet, we really shouldn't be in trouble. Raw powering the enemies every day of the week. At some point, I switch that strategy and start exclusively raw powering myself. And I'm pretty sure that that transition happens once my armor gets so far above 75 that even reducing it by 50 won't reduce it low enough for me to take additional damage, if that makes sense. I will not reduce it below 75, even with the raw power. Double block. Gotta love that flute. Gotta love that mode of the flute. We did end up having them blow up to some degree, but keeping the abomination on the board is going to help us deal with these little grubs. So we do not mind it hanging out for a little bit longer. I was about to say, we almost just immediately second guessed that. Yeah, let's kill this thing. It's the only thing that's really going to hurt us. There we go. We made it vulnerable. Get the fresh meat. Almost enough. The 5th card we play is going to be reduced. I don't know if we played a 0 cost card quite yet. We're going to do a little bit of fluff damage to it with our ultimate. Guarantee to get the kill with fresh meat. Get a little bit more life. And the abomination taking huge chunks out of his friends over there. Do we get another proc with the finishing blow? No, we do not. Actually, I don't think we've gotten a trigger for that yet this combat. Probably throw out the small strikes here just for the extra ultimate charges. Yeah, there we go. Blocking 1. The abomination's gonna kill the grub that was going to hit us. Saved us a little bit of damage. And here we should be able to finish it out. No, we go the stunning route. Oh, it's this turn. I knew at some point we would get here. So we hastily just threw out our small strikes, and we had a raw power in our hand. The frustration, clearly you can see it and feel it in the cursor. Exactly what was going through my mind. Easily could have raw powered myself or the enemy to get a kill there, but chose to do neither. This abomination should be pretty easy though, because it tends to not multi-attack. And if it's not multi-attacking, we can just block its one hit pretty easily. And our multi-attacks do tons of work once the enemies actually have a couple of vulnerable stacks on them. We get tempted here with a couple interesting attacks. I actually think Pure Luck and Fist of Stone are pretty good attacks in general. The issue is that they do not hit multiple times. The big attacks we're looking for are multi-hit attacks. We reroll. We get offered Spike Throw. We really probably should have taken Spike Throw because it does multi-hit, exactly what we're looking for. And later, if we have the ability to duplicate, that's a whole lot of hits across the board to enemies. Berserk, also a pretty good card when we know we're going to be taking damage. Berserk could be that little bit of extra armor that we need to make sure we're always at 75. And it could provide us with quite a bit of extra damage that we're lacking. We have currently no real source of percent damage increase. And we're still doing quite a lot of damage. So we can just imagine ourselves with maybe 100 or 200% increased damage. The enemy should be melting at that point. This is a really tough call. I wonder what the game would have been like if I would have went Spike Throws, but I definitely grabbed the Berserk here. The other reason Berserk is good is it's 0, and we have a lot of stuff that is triggering on us playing multiple cards. We want to play at least 4 cards in a turn so that our 5th card can get discounted. So grabbing 0 cost cards is very good. Here, our passive skill, gain an energy after killing a vulnerable enemy. That's pretty good for clearing, getting through the stages. First attack type card played, each combat costs 0. That's better than it looks. And at start of combat, duplicate your first attack type card. Both opening strike and freshness are very good, and they're better than they look. You can end up with your best attack in your opening hand, like those Spike Throws that I turned down, and play it for free or duplicate it, sometimes even both, if you end up getting both of those. If you have to choose between them, I would say freshness is better, so I take freshness here. Getting additional effect is a little tiny bit stronger than having maybe like a 3 energy or a 2 energy attack reduced to 0. But either one, you can't really go wrong, I would say. Both of them are pretty strong. So we think about whether or not we want to fight the training grounds or go to the boss. And we're going to go to the boss first before we go back to the training grounds. We're going to have weird candles after we beat the boss. And we know this. So we're going to fight the boss now and then use its candles to do the training grounds and hopefully get a second legendary rune for the run in the first area. Doing really good so far. We're going to switch out items on our hotbar and utilize these blood candles. This will be the first time I've ever used a blood candle in this game. Never really needed to, but pretty good when we have an attack that gets way better based on how much actual weird candle light we have. I don't think we needed to pop it there just yet. We probably could have waited because we don't have it in our opening hand, but we'll see. We definitely want to finishing blow one of these little side minions, get its trigger going, and start to get the special quest cards, special fight cards, these seize the opportunities. And you can just use these seize the opportunities to domino effect and kind of kill all of these little rock dudes in the beginning. Because we played so many cards, we get our discount from our Runestone pretty early here. And we want to hit the boss with as much armor reduction as possible. We want the boss's armor to go into the negatives and be as low as we can get it. That's a lot of life to chunk through. 3,800 on this high difficulty. So we're going to need as much help as we can get to chew through it. Enemy massive golem is very angry, super mad at us. Thankfully, it will only take a single block to stop all of that damage. We continue to build up. We get our very first vulnerable stack on him, and we get it to 2. Because we've gotten that vulnerable to 2, next turn it's just going to go down to vulnerable 1, but it still will remain. This is going to lead to our Golem friend's downfall here. As long as we can keep hitting him 4 times in a turn, we can keep him perpetually vulnerable. And we are going to do so, trying to use Mark of Blood when we can. Mark of Blood's a little tough to use on bosses because they have so much life. Having a boss heal back to full is a little bit tricky sometimes. We do end up dropping the Mark of Blood, especially this early, knowing that we're not going to be really putting in a lot of damage. We should hit him though. I think this is a mistake that we make. We should use Weird Freak to hit him, because even if he's going to heal that, we still want to keep the vulnerable stacks going. Let's see what we do. All of our damage is pretty high. Okay, so we do maintain some semblance of our vulnerability. Let's see if we stack another stack on. Something's telling me we're not going to. Nope, yeah, we did not. So now he has 1 singular stack of vulnerability on him. The gambles in our hand should keep us safe from the damage here, and should let us hit him pretty hard. We're going to try to kill him before he spawns more allies. After this golem takes a certain amount of hits, he will spawn allies that are a lot stronger than the ones that he has with him in the beginning. We do have enough attacks to put the vulnerable stack on him, but just enough. This is what's going to allow us... Oh, never mind. I thought that was small strikes. That was an overhead strike. Darn. Well, at least we get quite a bit of damage here. And we play a Broad Reach for next turn, or for this, just to boost the attack damage here. Oh, we're going to lower the armor even more. That means we should have done that to begin with before we started doing all those attacks, but... little misplays, no big deal. Chunky Golem is very angry now. Ultra angry. Really sad that we're stopping all his damage. And we are yet again fully defended. Double vulnerable, so he will still be vulnerable next turn. And this is the turn where we try to do 2,000 damage. And because the turn has Mark of Blood in it, he's going to lose another 100 armor. And I have Weird Freak, which is my highest damage single target. Looking at the damage here, we're like, okay, that's a lot. Yeah. I think that we risk it here. We boost up our damage, we reduce its armor, and then we have the ultimate. Yeah, we got this. From 2,000 HP to 0. GG. And then we Broad Reach for insult. And then we realize, oh wait, the fight's not over? Question mark? You mean I have to kill this little side guy? Well, dang. I just stun him. Get out of here, side guy. We end up losing even more Weird Candle in this fight because it drug on, but hey, no big deal. Don't think we gained life from that guy because I think he counted as a spawned minion. Now we can double back for the training grounds now that we have had a chance to gain some Weird Candles. And here we kind of make a decision, no, we're not going to go onto the leaderboards. I am primarily playing the Wyrdhunter here because Andrew asked me to, and I wanted to be a good content creator and listen to my growing community. So if you guys want to see anything, definitely let me know. I can't do this for a living yet, but I do want to. So every little bit of support helps make that a reality. So we're going to go ahead and take the passive skill. Yep, here. Start of every turn, gain 25% damage for the next hit. I think that's what we take. No, we take power circulation. Yeah. Every 10th card played gives us 10% damage boost. What I was saying earlier, getting damage percentage increases on the Wyrdhunter is big. Their damage is really strong without them ever getting higher than 100% damage. So taking them to 200 or 300% really makes them hit a lot harder, a lot harder. I think we had to pause here for something real quick. Maybe we wanted to check something. We still haven't taken the treasure fight, as you can see off in the distance back there. There's still a little bit left to do here in the first area. Of course, you want to double back, get this altar, and hit up the training grounds. So we're going to do that. We actually do manage to crush the fights pretty handedly, from what I remember. But I am going to let you watch those in peace. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this content educational or entertaining, definitely leave a like or a comment. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and as always, peace, peace.